Where's Drew and my pad?
That's what I was just asking.
He didn't when he was at...
I couldn't tell ya.
He didn't when he was at the pizza place a minute ago.
Oh, wait. Oh, I think, you do seem kind of lonely on the outside.
I know.
And that's
small?
Yeah, sure.
So you
I don't see anything working. You do? Well, the
We're
link on
going
the
to,
page.
but I realized Buzz and I are both not home. Maybe that would be a bad idea.
You can see it though?
I'll be there, but Noel gets
Okay.
home tonight too, so
As long as you can see it.
they'll see it.
Done.
They're smart.
Which is fine as long as Matt's watching. And they're sad, Matt?
They are.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'd like to call the meeting of December 12th to order. It is 6:01 p.m. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Are there any additions to the agenda?
Yes, we have the addition of the RIC One Risk Operations Center resolution, which is 7.3 on the agenda.
Anything else from anybody? Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Move. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting on November 14th?
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve the consent agenda, which is 3.1 through 4.1.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion on the treasurer's report, consideration of claims, transportation report, cafeteria report, the audit corrective action plan, or the long-term sub piece?
I had a question on the audit correction plan, just with some of the dates. So is that correct? That it says like anticipated completion date of June 30th, 2024. In a couple of places, should that be 2025?
Yes and no. I'll have to look at which one. Some of them were things that were items that were, the audit was complete.
Okay, that's what I was
So
wondering.
it's a year-end thing, so it was corrected for 2023, 24.
Okay,
Even though it was a finding for that year, it was corrected.
okay.
So
That was the only question I had on a couple
There's
of
probably
them.
both on there.
Oh. That was it.
Other questions?
No, but I had that same question.
All those in favor of the consent agenda?
Aye.
Opposed? That brings us to our district presentations. So we'll turn it over to the teachers and let you present.
If you have slides, if you just click on your link, it should take you right to it.
Take a look at that.
Oh, no.
I could get my phone out for group access.
And this is a tool that we created that basically has all of our units, the vocabulary, like the pertinent vocabulary listed. And then we also made a calendar that kind of helps us align content, which is social studies and science. So if you want to kind of pass those down and share them, those are extra.
This is a big one.
You might have to get access was started by
I think Corey and Amanda need those.
We can start talking, because the slides are really pretty good. Downloading 25 messages, wow, a lot of people emailed me here this afternoon. Geez.
Yeah. Jen.
No, these are really nice. This is pretty.
Okay, Lori, can you try it again and see if that worked? Lori, first.
My goodness.
I mean, we have to be immediately after school and stuff like that, but
That'd be funny.
it'd be something to toss around.
It would be.
I'll be in touch.
All right. Oh, because we're signed in by you. Fine.
Yeah, but you requested access, so it should.
Right, so Meg, you should have, it's not there yet. Well, how do we do without slides or not?
There you go.
I mean, sorry, you go second.
That's so weird of you to do it.
I could, but I own the Google Doc, and then we're logging it on my own, so I don't know if that makes a difference.
All right, well, we'll go, and then we'll.
Should.
And if not, we can just send you all the Google
We'll
slides.
send you the slides. Just looking at pictures.
Oh, yeah, that comes up to allow, let me know. So in kindergarten, we have 9 units in our social studies curriculum. So this summer, Lori and I met to align our curriculum with the standards, make sure everything was covered. But also we knew that we needed to find some more engaging presentations and activities for the students than the digital curriculum that we currently had through BOCES. Our slides had a really nice comparison, so I do hope it'll come in at some point, but we can share that with you just so you can see the difference. But if you look in there, you can get an idea of some of the really appealing things that we were able to find. The current curriculum that we had not been updated in a while, and it wasn't really very engaging for the students. We also wanted to add in aspects of play-based learning, because we know how much we love that. We also collected the vocabulary from the unit, and you can see that in the one document that we shared. And we also wanted to really make sure that we had diversity in our social studies. So that was basically what we did.
So we brought a few of our storybooks and nonfiction books that we collected to go along with our 9 units. That's just a few. We have so many more. And we created a bank of activities that we can use to reinforce and extend the curriculum, the main curriculum points. And we found and purchased some resources that were more engaging. So we purchased PowerPoint presentations and videos for the unit lessons. And we arranged them in a chronological order that worked for our grade level. Now, if you can see the slides, BOCES provides very basic slides that aren't very stimulating for the students. So we found another kindergarten teacher had made these beautiful slides that are very engaging, and the students, can relate to it because it's real photographs of real people, real places, real things. So
It should work out, but I don't know what to do. I already had team. I don't know it, she knows it. Okay.
there we go. How do you think of bigger? Right here, right?
I like these
Skip right to
Pete
pictures.
Jenkins series.
Yeah.
And even just looking at all the ones on the back that
And we have a lot more. We didn't bring everything, obviously. We have a lot more, but we tried to bring a selection of particularly some of the things that we have already used with the children, the neighborhoods, communities, you are unique, your family is unique.
The pictures are really vibrant. There's not many words, but they still
love that.
point
Yeah,
out.
we can just show you some of our slides, like this was a fun thing we did this year. I don't know why that's coming up. We had our Balloons Over Broadway parade, which was new.
We've been talking a lot about traditions and customs, and so we learned about the parade and the balloons and everything, and it was very fun to walk around the school.
So we were learning about holidays around the world, and it was so fun. The kids enjoyed that so much. We had our family unit where, you know, the students were able to draw their families, discuss their families, talk about who was in their family. I only have a few examples here. Aren't they great drawers? You know, during our holiday unit, we learned that so many holidays use lights as a way of talking about the holidays. So we have that display in our classroom right now. And this is the comparison slide that we wanted to show you. So this is the BOCES program. Yes, it's colorful. Yes, it has hands. But it's talking about community. And they have the same vocabulary definition. But this is more like what they see in real life. So the slides in our PowerPoints that we found are so much better than the BOCES ones. The BOCES slides are pretty much either a sketch or just words, and kindergarten is not
Doesn't
motivated
really
by that.
hold a lot of meaning to them to see a bunch of handprints and the word is community, whereas, oh wait, that kind of looks like downtown Hamilton, so it makes much more connection for them on these presentations that we found. So I think it's been working really well with them.
So do you have any questions for us?
You talked about adding in diversity to the curriculum. Can you maybe give an example of something that you used that maybe the kids have responded well to?
Yeah, I mean, right now with the holidays around the world, we've been talking a lot about the different traditions, what makes a tradition. It happens over and over again, how your family has unique traditions, but now also how the world has unique traditions. So our presentations had, what have we done? Sweden,
Today, Las Posadas, I'm probably pronouncing Spanish
I know.
wrong. Spanish wrong.
And the really kind of cool thing is they really loved learning, like, what do you call Santa in every country that has some type of Santa? When does he come? When do the kids get presents? Those are things that kindergartners are like so invested in. So they really could connect to that. Like that was schema for them, but they were like, wow, wait, you mean some kids put their shoes outside their door 2 weeks before? Some kids get it after on Boxing Day. It's been really fascinating because it's something that they really can understand. They also really loved, my kids loved like, wait, where is that on the map? Like that idea to them. They're like, well, is that over, in Florida? Like they don't understand the idea yet of states versus countries and then continents. So it's been really interesting and eye-opening to them to kind of see that. And again, the pictures are really engaging. It's, with the environment and the people that are from the different places. So they get to see what children like them believe and their traditions. So it's really neat.
In our self unit, like our self-identity kind of unit, they really got to know about everybody's background. And, one of my students does dance in Syracuse that is from India, and she has these elaborate costumes. And they're all seeing that. So that when we did our sharing bags for our self unit, kids brought different things and they're like, wow, oh, I've never seen that before. But then other ones were like, oh, I have exactly the same. So they saw a connection, they saw things that were different. So it was good for them to be able to see that. Any other questions?
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
That's great, thank you.
Sorry about the
No, technology happens.
I figured that out.
Thanks, Lori. Thanks, Meg.
These books are great. I like them.
Right?
I'm gonna go hang out in your classroom. Yeah.
That was something I would miss.
Do you want these now?
You can keep those. We made copies for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You don't need any home helpers today? I see them out there.
Hello, Johanna. Today I had some dual credit or some hours to get dual credit articulation for our small animal care class.
So a little background about what dual credit in high school is. It's students taking a credit from a teacher teaching in a high school, and once they leave, they will have that credit of a college-bound credit. So they will have a transcript to be able to take with them when they leave here. So what did we currently offer? So all my college credits were currently through SUNY Morrisville. So of our offerings here, we have equipment care and maintenance, which is our ag mechanics class, our vet science class, our environmental science class, our agri-science class, and our horticulture class. We're already me putting in for these curriculum hours, we're already dual credit certified. So costs are $50 a credit hour, so for a total of $150 for 3 credits. And then obviously if students are eligible for free and reduced lunch, they can even get it up to either half cost or for free. So background, our small animal care class was our only class that wasn't dual college certified because a college can't award you dual certification if they don't offer that credit, obviously. So Cobblescale is our closest SUNY school that offers a small animal care class. So we had to get a cross-contract and an articulation agreement with them. And what does that look like? We had to get approval through our small animal care class that's already outlined through SED and crosswalked with our ELA math and science standards. So we had to send our crosswalks to Cobblescale. Their animal science department reviewed it and got back to us and said that we were eligible to continue on to get dual college credit with them. And then you see a lot of steps here that involved Bill and I and Mark going back and forth with, they needed my CV, my transcripts, because you are a professor, you're a volunteer professor for them. Our HCS had to approve the form. We need the oath of office, volunteer form, a confidentiality agreement. So those were all things that Mark, Bill, and I worked through the summer back and forth getting to Cobblescale. With the addition of that class, all of my classes are now dual college credit certified, which I'm really happy and excited about. So students can graduate with 17 college credits through our ed program now, which is something that will obviously continue on with our CTE articulation through SED. So for this year, 5 of my kids are getting dual college credit through small animal care, and some of them are even getting it at reduced cost and for free. So that's really a really great thing for them to be able to take on as they leave here. And that was my curriculum hours. Does anybody have any questions?
When they leave here, do they then get those credits? Will they get something then from SUNY Morrisville and then also from Cobblescale?
Yeah, so they would request, they would request that transfer.
Okay,
So it's SUNY credit, so it's SUNY across the board.
Okay, so they're accepted at all the SUNY schools?
Yep, so it would be yep. And so also I have a lot of kids who ask me, like, well, what if I don't know, a lot of questions come up. So I'm a sophomore or junior and I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, can I wait to get that credit until I'm a senior and then put in for it? Unfortunately, no. They do have to decide either, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year, whether they're going to get it or not, because that's when they're on my, obviously, course load. So they do have to decide then. I also have kids ask me all the time, like, what if I'm not going to go to a SUNY school? Like, what if I don't know if I'm going to where I'm going to go to school? In my 11, I've offered dual college credit for going on 12 years. And I've never had a kid who's got dual credit who went to a school that they wouldn't accept it. I try to explain to the kids, like, everyone has to take electives, even when you go to college. So the best thing to do is if they are an older kid, I try to have them say, like, call the schools that they've been admitted to, if it's some of my high school, my seniors, to see if they will accept them as elective credits, and then hopefully they could take other electives at school or maybe get a minor or anything like that. So that's kind of what worked. Bill's son went to Utica, and had, 12 credits he took with him, type of thing. So, and I, try to explain that to the kids, that can help them, then you can take other classes you might like at your school, or that kind of thing. So those are kind of the big questions I usually get from kids for that. That makes
Great.
sense.
It's great that we offer so many.
Yep.
It is.
Yes.
It's a great job.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, it should be shared properly. I gave access earlier.
I sure did not give access to my phone.
No, mine's not on there. That's unbelievable. I thought I shared it with Bill.
Oh, geez, there we go. Is there a way to not everybody presenting don't restrict your presentation, just for short times?
Everybody go present and I'll go give access.
All right.
I'm gonna go give access, my room's right there, and then she can present first and then it'll work.
All right. That's good. That works.
Let's try it.
Right?
Okay, so I have some hours to implement a project-based learning module into my chemistry class so that I can be better aligned with the New York State Science Learning Standards. So I further adapted this project that I originally actually saw at the Stannis conference a couple of years ago, and I liked it so much, I thought, okay, I really want to do this project in my classroom. It's titled What's in the Water, so I'm actually going to share you some few teaching slides as opposed to perhaps more boring standards, although they will come in the end. So let's see if I can actually make this happen this way. So it deals with salt, but not the salt that we consume in our food. Instead, it deals with the salt that we, thanks to this early winter, have been already needing to throw on our roads. And as you might know, what salt does when you put it on the road, it actually lowers the freezing point of water. And as a result, there's less ice on the road. Instead, it's liquid so that we don't slip. So you're seeing here an actual graph dating all the way back to, wow, almost when I was born to almost the present day. And you're clearly seeing that there's a trend in increased salt deposit on the road. So this is sodium chloride salt used for de-icing in the US in metric tons. So we're looking at roughly 25,000 metric tons in the last few years. So clearly the trend is we use more road salt. If we now look at a map from across the world, there's a couple of things that you can notice. So if we look over here in the USA, there's a couple of reasons why we may be needing to use more road salts. First of all, there are more freeze-thaw events. We've noticed it last week. Now again, it's getting really cold. Yesterday, it was raining. The week before that, we had a winter storm. So because of more freeze-thaw events, we're needing to use more road salt. Another way that we're using more road salt is because, possibly as a result of climate change, there are now more extreme winter storms. So you're bringing in more snow, hence the need for more road salts. So that's the US. If we're now looking all the way in Europe, now you're seeing that there's a different reason why more road salt is being used, and that's because these are pretty cold regions right here, definitely east of the Netherlands where I'm from. And because they're now slightly warmer, road salt can actually now work. Because if it's too cold, road salt won't work at a certain Fahrenheit level or degree Celsius level. So more road salt is used across the globe. So what is the phenomenon that my students will be studying is the road salt usage and the effect that it may have, that it does have, on the environment and possible health consequences to ecosystems as well as possibly humans. And so we're really focusing on what can we observe in terms of data out there as a result of using road salt. Because it may not just affect us, it could affect also the ecosystems. We're talking not just the animals, say, in the Adirondacks, but also the plant life, and since everything's connected in the ecosystem, what effect would that have? So at the Carey Institute of Ecosystem Studies, they were looking into the road salt usage, and they basically said that 90% of the salt in a watershed, that means the area where all the water is collected, can actually come from road salt. So road salt, as a result, runs into nearby streams, it runs into the groundwater, and we all probably know what it does to our cars, but what does it do to our actual ecosystems? So that was kind of the intro, the same intro that my students get. So focusing on the standards, so these are the New York State Science Learning Standards. This particular standard actually is not part of the Next Gen standard, but it relates to solutions, right? When you add salt to water, that deals with solutions. And then the key standard that this really applies to, being a problem-based, project-based learning situation, is engineering, technology, and the application of science. So really applying concepts in chemistry to the real world, really making that connection. So I'm going to skip through these detailed standards, and I'm going to end here with, this is the actual handout that students are going to be using, and I'm only showing you the first page. The central question that they're going to need to answer is, how do the contaminants, albeit road salt, how do they get into the water, and then really what is the associated environmental and health consequences. And they're going to look at research that's been done out there, in particular in the Adirondacks, and the effect that it has on, for example, trout size, on frog populations, and whatnot, and then looking at that data and drawing connections. I had also reached out to Luke at one point because I really wanted him to come in maybe sometime next year, that means in a few weeks, to talk to our class about what are possible alternatives to road salts. Are they viable? Are they really as good? Are they as safe for our cars? Because of course we also care about our safety, not just the ecosystems. But I'm still working on that. So, do you have any questions?
This is interesting, and a lot of stuff I never thought about.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Do you anticipate like a field trip to the Adirondacks to study anything, like hands-on?
Maybe
or-
I'll jump on to
Never know.
Tanya Valencourt's field trip
Yeah.
to the Adirondacks and yeah, maybe figure something out.
Yeah.
That could be a possibility if she goes again with her class.
Were those
That's interesting.
deer or caribou or whatever, were they eating the salt in the road?
I think they were just crossing the road. Now, we know deer love the salt. It's
But
one
do they
way
attack
to-
the road salts, or is that?
I bet you some animals do like to go out in the road and lick the salt because they're attracted to salt. I just know from my husband and hunting and salt blocks, which I think are they illegal? I don't think they're illegal. Yeah. We all need salt.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
See, you're welcome. I don't know how to get it out of this, but maybe,
There we go.
There you go.
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, let's see if the physics works.
There we go, take two. Yes.
Just move it to the next.
All right. my training. So when our physics teacher left, my dad was a science chair, so I talked to him, I said, hey, physics is just math, so maybe I can teach it. And he was like, you should jump at the opportunity. So I talked to Mark and Bill and said, I'll give it a shot, but I'm gonna need some time to learn it, as opposed to having develop a curriculum like everybody else is kind of working with and trying to do new things. I had to take the time to try to learn some physics this summer. So I contacted a former colleague at Cortland who's a master teacher in physics. So he teaches 5 or 6 periods a day between honors physics, regents physics, and AP physics. And I said, why don't you give me a little bit of a crash course in trying to get me set up for success in terms of scope and sequence. So when I met with him, he just kind of gave me a solid understanding for this is where you want to be by these certain breakpoints in the school year. If you finish kinematics by Christmas break, if you've done this by here, you'll be in good shape. But one of the things that I really learned from him that was helpful was kind of my bottom dash here is the approach to solving any physics problem. And I've got Drew in his eye patch in the back of the room, and every single problem we do the same way. We write down all of our variables off to the side, we fill in our known information, and then we go and find the formula that we need. And they've gotten really good at it as we've gone. And part of the feedback that I've gotten in the past is that the math part of physics was the hard part for all of our students. And for me, I was like, oh, okay, great, then that's going to be fine because I could do the math pace. So I've really treated it as an applied math class. We go over our physics concepts, but if the math is a significant portion of what they have to be able to do in June when they take the Regents exam. So we have a focus on the math. And as I worked through all this stuff with my buddy Charlie in Cortland, I started to kind of develop a scope and sequence and found a curriculum that I wanted to use that is actually next-gen state standards already. So what I've got in every unit, as you can see, we've got our 4 days and our lab day, and I just kind of fleshed out what I wanted to do in every unit and how I wanted to use the materials that I had found. We go off of slideshows, and the students have some really nice guided notes packets that they have that actually have a QR code in the corner. So for any of the math problems and examples that they have, they can snap it with their phone or their Chromebook, and it'll take them to YouTube, and they can watch a video of the problem being explained by the person that had developed the curriculum. We use that in some of our math classes also with an e-math instruction, but in physics, they have kind of the same opportunity with what I found, so that if they just need to hear it again as opposed to try to read it, they have that opportunity. I don't know how many of them do use it, because it's a lot of our older students, but it's there if they need it. So as I went through the scope and sequence and kind of developed the course of study in what I found, that took a good chunk of my time on top of just saying, okay, I've got to learn the first couple units and go through the content and make sure that I know it well enough to be able to teach it to some of our best and brightest students, because there's a few in there that if I don't know what I'm doing are 100% going to be able to tell and won't be afraid to ask questions. And that's the biggest thing is I was honest when I said I might not know the answer to something that you have, but I can find it. So my lab structure and course structure, you can see it's physics burns that I've been using. It's a good blend of our math focus and then the physics concepts. I talked about our guided notes. We've done a great mix, I feel like, of inquiry labs with some, Colorado.edu has these amazing simulations that just kind of let them play with numbers and situations in physics. And there's a bunch of labs that I've got that they kind of work their way through the topics and try to learn about it a little bit before I have a chance to teach it. And it kind of gives them a better understanding. And then we do some things like you can see here with some good hands-on. This was a lab where they had to try to get this cart in equilibrium, and they had to calculate how much mass they had to hang from the string to get the cart to stay still when they let go. And most of them were really successful, and the first try, when they let go of that weight, the cart just stayed still. So that was a good example of some of the hands-on stuff that we've been doing so far in physics. It's a really nice group with 16 kids. We were able to split it into 2 lab classes, so they can do nice groups of 2, or in this case, they did 4 as they worked in this hands-on setup. And then the rest of my hours I spent, like I said, just going through the first few units to make sure I was ahead enough of the students to kind of give me a good base as I was heading into the school year. And at this point, I'm just trying to make sure that I stay a unit ahead of them, and I always welcome their feedback. Having never taught the course before, I get feedback from them. Do you need more time? How did this go? And they're really good about giving me that feedback. So I'm excited for the challenge, and I appreciate the fact that I got a chance to work on it over the summer a little bit and give me a head start. Any questions?
What surprised you the most about the connection between math and physics as you dug into it?
Sorry.
What surprised you the most about the connection for teaching pieces?
For the teaching piece, being able to say, hey, you learned the basis of what we're doing right now in my Algebra 2 class. I taught you the background knowledge for this math in that class. Now we just need to apply it in a different context. We do pieces of application in math, and physics is literally all application. So it's kind of a nice parallel to what I'm already doing in my math classroom, to be able to step into science and do this. The biggest challenge is getting used to doing labs, right? Because in math, I normally just teach my 4 classes and we move on with it, but lab has been kind of a fun challenge, and the kids seem to enjoy it. So.
When I was in high school math, all the math teachers always looked down at the physics and talked about our physics classes. Is this, have you, now you're more open to physics as a acceptable branch of discipline?
Yeah, absolutely. I had originally gone to school as a math physics dual major and then just decided to concentrate on math. So it's been kind of nice to get a chance to teach it and change it up a little bit.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking this on, Zach.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all for presenting. It's really important to us to see what you do during the summer, but also to bring us into your classrooms with a little light of your presentation to let us know what you're doing on a day-to-day basis and how invested you are in our students and the work that you do. So thank you. You may head home if you would like. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting as well, but we know you've had a long day and you have to come back tomorrow, so.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Next up is the community participation. This is the time that we do kindly ask the community members to limit their agenda items. We have a policy of 5 minutes at max, and to help the board discussion, we do ask that this part of the community participation be based on the agenda items and the next part be for other questions, but obviously you can do it as you wish. So if you'd like to come forward, you may do so now.
I don't know if this applies, but my thing is the school safety
Okay.
and an incident that took place with my grandson, an encounter that I've had with your superintendent, and my constant dealing with your principal.
Okay.
Well, Andrew is, which doesn't want to be known. I'm Danny Marcano, I'm his grandfather. He's had many issues since he's been here in school. He's been diagnosed with ADHD. He came here and he was in the tank. He's been improving over the years. He's been bullied. The meeting I had with him, I tried to ask him, what is your school policies? All he was able to tell me is you're acting like a child, because all I wanted him to explain to me is what was the school policies. The shield over here, he just covers. He doesn't do anything. Now the incident I'm going to get to was my grandson called me about 2 weeks ago because he was attacked by another student here in the school and choked. Got sent to the nurse. Mr. Arquette wasn't in the building. Chris Rogers was.
If we could not use names, that would be helpful.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
He wasn't in the building, so there was someone else in the building in his place. Didn't call me. Didn't call my wife. The nurse, he went to the nurse. The nurse didn't call me, didn't call my wife. My grandson had to call me. So I come here, and of course, I'm tired of dealing with it. The kid is old enough, so I called the police, and I got the police involved. Okay, so there is a criminal matter going on. The kid is still in school. That doesn't go with your policy regarding incidents like that. And I know I'm not going to get answers here, but I'm just hoping to stimulate you, and then you can go over and try to get the answers yourself. The school had a vaping issue. Yeah. I'm a retired police officer, so I get people that talk to me all over the place. Got staff members here that talk to me, but don't want me to identify them because of repercussion, almost like what happened in 2018 here. So I had to cut my ties with them. But I'm wondering, what happened to that vaping investigation? You know, it was supposed to be in the bathroom, you know, in a combination between the weed vape and the regular vape. We haven't heard anything. You guys had a so-called, you should have had the lockdown. I pulled up, there's all sorts of troopers here. Because I'm a retired police officer, I approached the trooper, and the trooper informed me of what went on. And then I get the memo from the school that says, they spoke with the police officer and we didn't need to go into lockdown. If you had a threat that you had to call the police, then you had a lockdown situation. Yes, I was a school resource officer too a year ago. So, there's a lot of issues here, even with the bullying. I don't care how many signs you got up there. There's people like me that don't have a name, that are protected, that are afraid to come here to voice their opinion regarding the bullying. So, I'll be back next meeting. Thank you very much for your time and your patience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who'd like to come forward? Seeing nobody, I will move on to personnel. We have, I need a motion for a leave of absence for child rearing purposes for Victoria Smith, tentative dates of February 12th through June 4th, as recommended by the secondary principal and superintendent.
I'll move. Second.
Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve the leave of absence for child rearing purposes for Kukri Potter with tentative dates of January 6th through June 27th, as recommended by the elementary principal and superintendent.
Second.
Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. And a motion to approve the appointment of Megan Gridley as a probationary part-time teacher aide bus aide, effective December 13th, as outlined and recommended in the recommendation form and recommended by the director of PPS and superintendent.
Second.
Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve the appointment of Sharon Collins as a long-term substitute teacher with tentative dates of January 6th through June 27th, as recommended by the elementary principal and superintendent.
I'll move.
Second?
Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve the appointment of Glenn Marsala as a long-term substitute for the secondary science and special education with tentative dates for February 12th, through June 4th, as recommended by the secondary principal and superintendent.
Second.
Discussion will be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve the advisors and volunteers for 24-25 spring musical as provided for contractual language as recommended by the secondary principal and the superintendent.
Move. Second.
All those in favor?
I have to ask, can I vote on that? Because I'm listed as volunteer.
Sorry, I didn't say discussion.
That's okay. I was like, wait, I ask every time, but I always forget, so.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve the addition of Sarah Garcia and Cindy Went to the substitute list as recommended by the administrative team and superintendent.
Move?
Second.
Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve the recommendation of the committees on special education and preschool education.
Move?
Second.
Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
7.3 was added. I need a motion to approve the proposed resolution to enter into an intermunicipal agreement established by the RIC, One Risk Operations Center to negotiate data privacy agreements with vendors and third-party contractors on behalf of the district.
I move. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Now we're on to the superintendent's report.
I just have two things to add from my written report. The first is on the regionalization plan. There's been, I think we talked last month about the pushback to the regionalization plans. The commissioner put out a proposed amendment that she's going to propose to the Board of Regents. Two things she's going to add. She's going to revise the note that suggested amendments to the plan will remain advisory rather than mandatory. So that ensures that districts maintain full control over the plans that they develop. And the second thing she's going to add is concerns about mandatory participation. A new provision will be added which allows districts in consultation with their school boards to elect not to participate in the regionalization plans if you so choose. So those are two amendments that she's going to propose to the Board of Regents as far as regionalization. So my recommendation is that we do continue to move forward in those discussions. Our BOCES is in agreement that we're all going to work together and provide opportunities for kids. And so that would be my recommendation. And the second thing is great news. Great Schools just came out with their 2024 College Success Awards, which recognizes and celebrates public high schools that excel at preparing students for post-secondary success. Our district was identified as one of only 1,436 schools nationwide to earn this honor. So that's for college preparedness and success, and we have been added to that list. So that's great news, and I congratulate Mr. Arquette and all the teachers and students and parents for their support. It's quite an honor.
Thanks.
The administrative reports were posted. Does anybody have specific questions that maybe Heather or Mark or Bill could help with, or is everybody else set with what was
I
posted?
had a question for Mark. If you could just talk a little bit more about the rollout of the culturally responsive framework.
Any particular piece? or-
Just like how it's going, or what's if there's anything.
So there's a lot with it, across.
I guess how it's being received, maybe either by the students or the teachers.
I think very positively. Last year we had Becky Cobb here, and then we had her again here at the beginning of this year. A lot of the work that she has done in presenting the different components, people were receptive. Recognizing that some of this stuff is already happening here that they're talking about how can we make it better. We had a lawyer here this year presenting on transgender rights. And we received information there. So I think the overall feeling for teachers is positive. Student-wise, we have a Mosaic group, and actually they're going to launch something off tomorrow. So tomorrow during the forum, they're going to give an explanation of what they're going to be doing. But next week they do have a plan to have an activity during high school and middle school lunch. Students are going to be able to share what makes them unique. And so I'll let them explain tomorrow in the forum exactly what's going to look like, because the students came up with this on their own, and they're going to implement that Monday, Tuesday next week.
Awesome. Thanks.
Then if we go a little further, as far as like APPR and the portrait of the graduate, all of that work that's happening at the state level, a bunch of shifts there. So with APPR, Heather and I just went to a meeting today actually about that. And one of the big things they're doing is changing teacher preparation programs to include the framework as part of that preparation program. So all the teachers coming up will be trained in all that, in all their college programs that are approved by the state. And they're also going to be changing the teacher leader evaluation or standards for New York State teacher leader standards to include the framework as well. So that also translates to APPR, because once we adopt our new 3012E, we'll have to incorporate those components within it when we're doing teacher evaluations.
Great. Thanks.
Yep.
I just wanted to make a comment. Kevin mentioned the co-teaching. I just wanted to say that I have spoken to actually some students in those classes and some of the teachers teaching those classes and have gotten really positive feedback. So just wanted to publicly state that.
Thank you.
Anything else on the administrative reports? The numbers look great for the athletic report. Thank you for providing those. And congratulations to all the students that are represented. Thank them for all the representation they do for our district. Other questions on athletics? That means we turn it over to Matt. Business manager report.
Thank you. Since we last met in November, the biggest newsworthy item was probably the release of the Rockefeller Institute's report on school funding in New York State and recommendations as far as foundation aid goes. If you got through it, all 314 pages, some of it, very extensive, very detailed, a lot of attention paid to the history of foundation aid in New York State, sort of the roadmap of how we got to where we are today. And then a lot of data, a lot of comparative data with New York State to other states in the U.S. A lot of data points that we already, I think, knew as far as spending per pupil and changes in demographics, changes in student needs, a lot of things that I think we were aware of. So a lot of data, and then there were some recommendations. The recommendations that were made were wide-ranging. They were some very specific changes in metrics that are used in the actual formula, and then some more broad changes as far as things such as like the amount of fund balance that districts can carry. It really wouldn't have an effect on the formula itself and funding of school districts, but could potentially help districts moving forward. The challenge now is, one, the timeline. So this report was just released. The state budget process does not change. I'm very skeptical that any change, if any changes are made, I'm not sure they have enough time, the state has enough time to implement them next year. As far as this specific formula, we still anticipate the governor's executive proposal to be released in January. So will it be current law and foundation aid runs based on that? Will it be current law with some tweaks based on recommendations? We really don't know at this point. And then secondly, most importantly for us is, what is the impact on us, and more specifically, any individual district? So when they talk about using updated poverty measures within the formula, things that they seem to make sense, what impact does it have on us? Because with these measures, most of them are going to be relatively calculated. So it's going to be relative to where do you stand as a district compared to other districts across New York State. So the impact on if changes will be made and what the impact would be on us remains to be seen. So it's very interesting, it's very extensive. I think there's some good things in there. Bob Magna, who was the leader of the Rockefeller Institute, he spoke of the time crunch. They really didn't have a lot of time to do this. This was part of the adopted budget in April. They had a deadline of December 1st. So I know you folks were very active in attending one of the 5 public hearings across New York State. So there was a lot of time spent on this, a lot of advocacy, a lot of efforts from them on how it's going to be implemented remains to be seen. So I don't know if anybody wants to talk about that, or if any questions or comments. I would anticipate probably within the coming weeks, there's going to be some summaries put out by some of the advocacy.
I was going to talk about, though there already is one, NISPA did a really great job, put it into 5 pages.
The other thing they mentioned in the executive summary was that the Center for Educational Equity at Columbia University's Teacher College with the American Institute for Research have also, they decided to do their own study as well. Do you know any details on, this is the first time I heard about that going on, but it'd be interesting to see how that compares.
Yeah,
So it's still a wait and see game.
yeah. As far as we're concerned locally, we had our initial meeting scheduled with all of our department heads, so we are already talking about 25, 26 in the budget development, so. Yeah, regardless of what happens with regard to that report and foundation, we're full speed ahead looking at what we're doing here. Second sort of big thing, just a quick update, capital project. We had a very productive meeting with King & King Architects since the last time we met. Paul Johnston, who we've become very familiar with our work through this last project and our planning for the next project. He will be here for the January board meeting with an update on some timeline things, scope of the projects, and some ideas that we've had, just to update you on what we're thinking moving forward. So we look forward to that. We'll give you some documents ahead of the January meeting, so you're somewhat prepared. And then the last thing, finally, I'm able to give you an update on electric school buses. So, as you know, the scope of the school districts that were eligible for funding based on need was expanded. We were able to be captured into that group, so we were able to apply for funding for a full electrification study. And that was sort of the last thing that we did. It was silence for probably about 6 weeks. And what we found out was when NYSERDA expanded the eligibility, they got bogged down and there was a major backlog. So the deadline for approval of those projects is 12/31/24. So we anticipate Polera, who's the company that is the approved NYSERDA group that we are working with, anticipates approval and go ahead by 12/31. So I don't know if you follow it. I think the Eclipse usually has it. There are still some referenda that are going up across the state. Most notably locally, somewhat locally, Onondaga Central School District just last week had 2 separate propositions, one for 2 electric school buses that would have been essentially fully funded in terms of no local share, and it got voted down pretty heavily. And they had a separate proposition for a traditional fuel bus. I don't know if it was gas or diesel. It passed overwhelmingly. So the last I had heard or checked, it was roughly 2/3 or slightly more than 2/3 of votes around New York State have been voted down in regard to electric school buses. We don't anticipate that the state is going to back off anytime soon with timelines and the push for the transition. So we are continuing to monitor that and plan accordingly, and that'll be tied into sort of the capital project discussions that we have in January. So we will probably get some quotes this year. We did it last year just to get an idea of cost, but we should know more shortly after the first of the year with regard to the electrification study, which Polera will work with the village. We're very unique in that we are fully within the village utility. Most school districts are providers. So we are unique in that sense, so hopefully that helps move things along a little bit. We don't have multiple providers as far as multiple sites, multiple providers, generally some districts do, and that complicates things. Questions on those things? Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
All right. So, 2 months ago now, I talked with Mr. Gauslin, and he asked me to prepare a report about some of the course selection here at HCS and the students' opinions and how we can maybe work to improve it, because we've got a changing world that our students are entering in with college and the workforce, and how we can continue to improve our course selection so that students are prepared. So I did a survey of the senior class as they've got a lot of the experience, they've taken all the classes. And so I had a couple big talking points. Most notably, a lot of students were pushing for more technical education skills. There are a lot of strong voices who recognize that HCS has a lot of opportunities with AP and dual enrollment classes, and maybe looking forward to more options around some specific ones were baking, ag careers, and things like that. One suggestion I thought was interesting that fit with some other points was a class related to teaching students how to prepare maybe for a job, writing resumes, or applying to colleges. I think a lot of people liked, I believe Mr. Darrow did a class on it last year for May Jam, just a little seminar regarding like the college application process, and I think a lot of students liked that and would like to see that in depth. And that goes along with things like someone pointed out driver's ed could be an option. I know some school districts around here offer that over the summer, so maybe looking into that. And then potentially looking into hosting an SAT or ACT. A lot of students thought it would be a good idea because in my experience, I've had to drive no less than 30 minutes to take the SAT in New Hartford, but some students get boxed out of the locations close to us and end up going an hour, 2 hours, sometimes even 3 hours to find the site. So I think a lot of students would appreciate that, considering that 78% of our senior class took a college entrance exam. So I think that would be very helpful. I think something that came up, and we've talked about this a little in a previous meeting, but a lot of schools around here are moving towards dual enrollment. And I think a lot of the seniors appreciated that and thought that could be a good switch if we were to move along with them, just giving more credit opportunities for students entering college, and even local schools offering an associate's degree because of how many credits you can earn. So seeing Mrs. Bosma's presentation, how she's improving the number of credits was definitely nice to see. And then one thing I did notice about a lot of the feedback is that some of it, people were asking for things we already have with classes. And so I thought it would be interesting for me in the future to work with the counseling department and maybe create just a little blurb for each class, really describing it and what you do, so we could help bring a little more advocacy to each class and help students really understand what's offered here at HCS. So I know, like, on the Colbert website, when I was applying, each class has a paragraph, what it's going to entail, and who the professor is. So I thought that could be an interesting thing for new students and people who aren't familiar with the classes.
Lydia?
Colin, I'm wondering if this came up at all in part of this conversation, was having restricted opportunities, like if you choose to do BOCEs, you can't continue with foreign language and you can't do chorus and orchestra and things like that. Did that come up in any of these conversations at all? Because I'm starting to hear more of that.
Yeah, that's definitely something that could be improved. I'm not really sure how we can do that, whether it's because some of the solutions are tough. Adding more teachers and things like that takes a lot. So I think that's definitely something worth looking into, just the opportunities that you can have. I know a lot of the students in my survey said they are taking advantage of BOCEs, which is a big limiting factor for a lot of that. And I think a student said they would like to see a little more foreign language because seniors often don't have any foreign language left. So I'm not sure how currently how we would go about solving that, but I think that's definitely something to look into.
Colin, in your feedback, are students familiar with the counseling page on our website? Because there's a lot of, like, our course handbook is on there, and it has all of those descriptors for classes.
Okay. No, I didn't see that. So maybe you can bring a little more knowledge to that.
Okay.
Do you get a sense when students said they were asking for things that that are already offered, that maybe they were, and I'm just asking if this is possible or not. Could it be that a student knows it's offered, but they can't take that and another course? So they have to choose between two things they want, or they could do both?
So
is that an issue?
where I mostly saw that is I asked students what they'd like to see that Hamilton doesn't have, so maybe new classes, is where I saw a lot of the repeated ideas of things that are already represented here at HCS.
So maybe we need to just do a better job of letting people know exactly what's out there and bring attention to this. It sounds like some people already put a lot of effort into doing these blurbs and maybe finding a way to make those more prevalent, you know?
Yeah. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
knowledge sharing, elementary story.
We have not met since last time, so no new news to report. Yeah, last month it was like we met right before this meeting, so. Yeah.
Secondary is meeting next week, so
Okay.
we also did not meet yet. So.
Okay.
Inclusivity.
Same thing.
There you go. It's just a tight month, I think,
Yeah.
with everything. So those will all meet, and we'll have good info to share next month. And Jen, I'm sure there's lots.
Matt already stole half my thunder, like he always does. I'm gonna find a way to get myself before you. No, so we had a school board institute meeting. It was really good. It was a really good meeting. Brian Fessler from NISPA is going to be doing a Zoom meeting on some of the budgeting things and stuff on December 16th. So we ended up shifting the time of that. Originally, he wanted to do 4, and we said, like, that's really hard, so we were able to switch that to 6. And talking about kind of the timing for some of the presentations and things that they do to try to make that so more people can attend. The other big topic of conversation, and I was on a small group to try to reformat the SSA, or the SAA and the DSA awards, so it's the Student Achievement Awards. And then the awards that they also do for faculty, staff, and board members. And I think we tried to simplify that process because we're having a really hard time getting school districts to submit those. And then some of the ones that are submitted are just really poor. And we have a lot of students doing a lot of great things and trying to figure out how we can really get them to be represented. So I said that I would bring that back. I didn't ask specifically like, hey, what side of the list is Hamilton on? But I think especially with a vacancy right now in our high school counseling office is to really make sure that that should be coming out in January. They're going to be pushing it out, I think, at like the counselor meetings that come out, but also a lot with the superintendent and principals this year. So that will be coming out, and I think really just, we have some really great students here, and I'd love to see us submit for that. They talked a little bit about the Genesis Awards and kind of the same thing. There was so many great people doing so many great things, and it's so hard to get people to nominate. So if you guys specifically know, like, is there any barriers to that process? We'd love to hear from people of what can be approved.
There are, and we'll share those with you.
I would love that. Yeah. That's really critical.
Yeah.
And then on the advocacy forefront, obviously the big thing was this Rockefeller Institute report. NISPA did put out a 5-page condensation of that. So if you guys don't have that, let me know. I have that and can send that. It was really helpful. Obviously, like, it is literally them just picking out the biggest pieces and then like the most important data recommendations. So I found, like, obviously I'm still trying to dig through all 300 plus pages, but I felt like that was a really good start to figure out, yes. Because like Matt said, it's a lot of information. They had the 2025 legislative preview webinar. I know some of us were on that. It was, but I do have the slides and also recording the webinar if there's anybody that didn't attend and want to see that, but and then the other thing is the zero emission bus legislation. NISBA formally delivered their side of, the bill and their thoughts and things like that. So there is a take action on that. Again, if anyone wants to do that, I submitted that, but I would recommend to everybody. Again, it's an ongoing thing, not really sure where it's going to go, but I think the more of us that can just speak out to the challenges, that would be helpful. And that's it. Still trying to get some meetings scheduled.
Yes,
So we're going to win that challenge.
we're going to try.
We also attended the,
You're right, Regent Mannion.
so we both attended that when our local Regent Mannion visited the school board institute. I thought it was an interesting meeting. My biggest takeaway is I feel like he's, at least the way that he's portraying the SED, it seems like there's a lot more active kind of outreach and advocacy on behalf of schools, and it seems more of a working relationship. Did you get that sense as well?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and also there's a lot that he can't do, and there's a lot that we have to talk to kind of our local politicians about, like the electric bus thing. He was like, I can't do anything about that, but you got to go to your people.
But yeah, a lot of the content was a lot of stuff we talked about today, Foundation Aid and electric buses and those issues. But it definitely seem like a much more of a collaborative. We want to know what you're thinking and make sure we're representing what schools need, for, at least on his behalf. So.
Yeah.
And Regent Mannion came to one of our recent CSO meetings, and we had the same feeling from him. Like he's really reaching out to districts and asking for feedback and willing to take that back to the department. And I think there's a feeling that they're finally listening and want feedback, and will take feedback seriously.
And he seemed to do that really well too. He was really receptive of people's comments, and he's done a whole slew of things in his career, and I think he brings a really good perspective, and
Yeah, he's local, and he understands rural districts and also urban districts. So he's got I think with his career background and his understanding of local districts, I think it's a positive for Central New York.
To add to that, realized I forgot something. I can send more detail, but save the date for January 30th. That's when they're going to be doing the legislative forum through SBI. And so that they're working on creating a list of questions, and the legislators get them ahead of time, so we're not blindsiding them. But that's always, to expand on what you guys said, it's always a good opportunity to see the view of each of our legislators, and it's always interesting.
Is there any talk of going to a lobby day? That's what, in February?
I would love to do that. So we'll talk more about that.
Okay.
That brings us to community participation. If anybody would like to come forward, please remember our policy, and we do so at this time. I don't see any comments online. Seeing nobody move, thank you for coming. We will have an executive session, but we will not be rejoining online because there will be no vote after executive session. So I need a motion to adjourn, to enter into executive session to discuss matters pertaining to the following: employment history of particular persons, and collective negotiation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we'll take a 10-minute recess.
Good job. Did he get that abbreviated version? I might need you to send that to me.
Yeah, I can send it.
We might have gotten it